And we are recording, and welcome everyone. I'm Tim Stommer, and with me is Meredith Allen, and we're from the conference committee, and we're really excited that everybody's here for this. I'd like to introduce Biz Summers. She is from Prince William County, and she's going to talk about productivity in Google Tools. And so I'm going to take notes as well. So it's all yours, Biz.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I just want to thank everybody for coming. I know that it is a unique experience to be in a virtual conference. I did VSTE last year, and so I know that it costs you something to give up a piece of your day. So I appreciate you being here, and I'm going to make it as worth your time as I possibly can. So just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Biz Summers. I'm an instructional technology coach at Fredlin Middle School in Prince William County. And my Twitter handle is BusyITC. It's wordplay. But I would definitely encourage you to check out two other Twitter accounts of organizations that I work with, ITCs for All and Unison EDU. Scavenger hunt. Okay. And as we get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been an instructional technology coach for 6 years. And when I first got started, I was so nervous about having control of my own schedule. And for the first time after my whole life, I'd always been bound by what time class began and ended, and that's how I ran my schedule. But I had all this freedom as an instructional technology coach. Not that I had less to do, but just that I was in charge of deciding when to do it. And so I started getting into productivity to try to make the most of that time. And now in my district, where we have asynchronous Mondays, teachers and students are also all facing that different type of schedule freedom, but at the same time, a million meetings to juggle and balance. And so a schedule that runs you almost as much as you run your schedule anyway. So that's what I want to talk about today, is just how to handle that kind of stuff. And I hope I can bring you some great strategies to help you with it. But before we officially begin, I want to give you a challenge, not just for this session, but for all of VSTE 20. It is really hard when you're working from home and attending a conference to focus on the conference in front of you. I know that I am very guilty of having my conference screen on one monitor and my email on the other, and trying to manage both of those things. And so my challenge for you is that during these sessions, especially these ones during the weekday that are kind of spaced out, is to take your 25 minutes of time or 30 minutes of time that you have and focus only on the presenter. The school of thought here is that if you are using your time wisely with attention to the sessions, that later on you'll have to spend less time going back and looking at the notes and being like, what was that about? Where was that link? What did she say? How can I find that again? And later, when you're working on those emails or whatever else is happening on your second monitor, that you'll do a better and more efficient job with that as well. And I think that VSTE is really nicely set up for that, because 25 minutes really is the sweet spot of uninterrupted productivity time. There's one strategy that I think is great for when you do have a chunk of uninterrupted time, especially if you've got a couple hours ahead of you, called the Pomodoro Technique. And the way the Pomodoro Technique works is that you focus on something for 25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break. And just a couple of Google tools that I would suggest to help you implement that strategy are number one, there is a Chrome extension called a Pomodoro timer, like pasta. So, those little kitchen tomato timer things, that's what this Chrome extension looks like. And so when you start to work on a project, you can click the little tomato on your Chrome tabs, and it'll start a little timer, and you can watch it count down. And after 25 minutes, a window will pop up that says, hey, stop, take a short break. And then for 5 minutes, walk away from that project, walk away and get a snack or fold some laundry or whatever else is separate from your computer. And that little focus break is enough to bring you back, to have you really paying attention to what matters and what you want to pay attention to and focus on. Another Chrome extension that's really helpful for that is called Stay Focused. And you can see it written here on the screen. There's no E and stay focused. And what that does is it allows you to limit other distractions. So if I'm somebody who is frequently distracted by Twitter, guilty, I can set it so that I have maybe 30 minutes of Twitter access per day. And after that, Chrome will block me from accessing Twitter again until tomorrow. Your productivity tools are really only as good as you are, though. So it will still allow you to like look at it on your phone. So you can break the system if you try, but I don't recommend it. Okay, so if I haven't made it clear, I really, really like productivity. Um, and so I have a lot more than 30 minutes of content to share with you. So I'm going to ask you to help me decide where to go with this presentation, and I'll give you the 30 minutes that you think might help you the most as a group. All of my resources are available in the Sketch. I think you pronounce it Sketch. Um, and there, I'll also share a link. So if we don't get to cover it during the session, you can still go back and look at the resources. So if you want to do one of these things and we don't have a chance to, then I would definitely encourage you to check it out there. So we're going to try a little Zoom poll. So I'm going to ask you to, if you're not familiar with Zoom, down at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a reactions button, and you'll have a bunch of possible reactions that you can use. And I'm going to ask you to, by using a reaction, vote for the topic that you would most like to talk about. Thumbs up for email management, heart for calendar management, wow face for task management, and reaction for celebration reaction for just habits and hacks. And that's going to be less Google tools and more just things that I like about productivity. So you might have to hit it a couple times. This is harder than I thought it would be to see you on multiple screens. I think I'm seeing more task management than anything else. So that's where we're going to start, which awesome choice. This might be my favorite one. So even if that wasn't the general vote, we're going to say it was because I love it. Okay. So task management. I'm going to start this one off by sharing one of my absolute favorite quotes by David Allen, who is the author of the book Getting Things Done, which if you spend a lot of time being a big productivity nerd, you'll hear David Allen's name probably more than any other individual's name. If you want to get nerdy with productivity and really drill down into like kind of changing your lifestyle and habits, I would recommend his book, The Getting Things Done Workbook, not to be confused with Getting Things Done, which is just a kind of a cerebral nonfiction read. The Getting Things Done workbook is a great way of like learning practical habits that you can implement immediately. Anyway, what David Allen says is that your mind is for having ideas, not for holding them. And I just think that's absolutely brilliant because I don't know about you, but I have on many occasions sat up in bed at night and been like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot to do this thing. I'll try to remember to do it first thing in the morning. And still, if I don't write it down, there's a good chance that it'll be lunchtime before I think about that thing again. So the one thing that I would say in terms of task management that I would encourage all of you to do is consider writing down everything into some kind of system. And if you're a analog kind of person, there's no problem with putting everything down in pencil and paper on a little notepad that you carry around with you, or maybe a rocket book if you're that type of person. I personally love just doing something that's digital. So I'm going to present to you three tools that I really love for task management. And I think the main piece of advice I would give you about any of these things is that I would suggest that you use one of them. The more streamlined you make your processes, the easier your life is going to be. So the first one is, and definitely starting with the simplest one, is Google Tasks. What I love about Google Tasks is its simplicity. It is a great way to make a list of things you need to do, look at that list, and check things off. One of the most important things about it is it's available on multiple devices. So I can pull up Google Tasks on my phone, or I could pull it up while I'm in Gmail or while I'm looking at my calendar. And I think being able to look at your tasks and your calendar at the same time is really important, because not everything that you need to do is always going to be on one, but everything you need to do should be on one of those two things. It's easy to reorder your tasks in Google Tasks, and it's great to be able to include due dates on them to sort of help you with priorities. It's really simple, really straightforward. I definitely recommend it as a thing to check out if you are somebody who is not super comfortable with technology and you're just starting to get into trying to keep track of tasks on a digital tool. However, I definitely don't think it's the most robust option, and it's not one that I personally use. So, option two is Google Keep. I'm going to go ahead and make the assumption that you're already comfortable enough with Google Keep to know that it's a bunch of notes that you can put notes on each of the notes. Um, what I love about it that I think makes it better than Google Tasks is that you have the ability to make multiple lists. So each note that you can create in Keep would be a project. It's also multimedia. So if you are somebody who is kind of fat thumbed like me, it's easy to voice record something. So when we're doing that step of, oh, I just thought of this thing, you can record it instead of trying to type it in with your thumbs. Especially helpful if it's late at night and you're half asleep and you're remembering something. Um, but what I really like about it is all the little features like color coding and tagging that you have to prioritize things. So rather than talking about it, I'm going to show you what Google Keep might look like to manage a couple of projects. So this is just an example. Um, but here are 5 notes that I might have in Google Keep. There's a productivity method called Kanban, which basically has people list things into 3 categories: things that need to be done, things that are currently in progress, and things that are done. So in this case, I used that method to organize with color coding. So the things that I still need to do are take attendance to professional development catalog and do my Christmas shopping. Don't judge me. The things I'm currently working on are VSTE presentations, this one right now, and one on Friday morning. And then the blue is my done category. I'm finished with grad school for the semester. Um, so then, in addition to the color coding to let me know where I am in my progress with all of these keep notes, I also have tags that I've added to the bottom. So, one thing that I think is really hard in digital learning is separating what is your life and your home from what is your work. So, whatever task manager you use, if you have the option to separate work and home, I think that's a really good idea. Having those boundaries, I mean, I don't need to tell you, is really important. And if you can make those boundaries digital, I think that's great. Um, so I have work and home tags. I also have what's called a zombie list. So I have a little zombie tag on my attendance one. I think this is a great strategy is to have a list of things you can do when you're in a slump, when you're not feeling creative but it's like still working hours. So you feel like you should be doing something, but you don't really want to interact with anyone. And you generally feel like a zombie. So for me, that's taking attendance is a great zombie list task because it's something I can kind of do it mindlessly. It's kind of time consuming, but I can just get it done without expending a lot of emotional or mental energy. So again, the tagging feature in Keep is really amazing. And again, it's collaborative, so you can see that if you look at the Visti presentation, the second green note, I have sharing uh, available. So as I finish these tasks, I can check them off, and other people will see that they are also checked off. So that is a great Google tool. And I really like the way it's got a lot of options for how you organize it. But okay, here's my other thing. And I'm sorry, I'm going off brand because I just feel like I have to. Um, if you want a really robust platform for task management, I promise they don't pay me, but I talk about them whenever I can. I absolutely love Todoist. It's like Keep, it is collaborative and allows you to tag and prioritize things. But it also lets you change your view of things. So you can look at things as lists, or you can look at them as boards. You can look at things that are due on a certain date, or you can look at things that fall into a certain category. And it's really easy to flip flop all of those views. It is a freemium service, so the free platform's not bad. But one thing I really like about it is educators get a 70% discount on their top tier service. So I do pay for it for $18 a year. I feel like it's worth every penny. And just to give you a peek into my Todoist life, here's some projects that I'm working on with ITCs for All. And you can see that We've got a board of tasks here. Some of them have a little circle with a letter on it, and that's who those tasks are assigned to. If they're not assigned to someone, we all see them. And so it's easy to organize all of these tasks within this project. Along the left-hand side, you can see all of the other projects. Actually, you can only see about half of the other projects that I have going on as well. So if you really want to take a deep dive into task management, Todoist is definitely worth checking out. And so that is task management highlights. So taking you back to this screen right here, we still have thumbs up for email management, hearts for calendar management, or celebrations for habits and hacks. So I'd love to see what other things you would love, what you would enjoy talking about next. Oh boy, this is tough. It's not calendar. I can rule out calendar based on emojis. I think it's habits and hacks. Okay. Habits and hacks it is. Let me zoom ahead. I'm presenting this in Canva, by the way, which I have to say, I really love the Canva platform for sharing slides. It's really nice. If you haven't looked into Canva, you're missing out. Okay, so only one slide on habits and hacks because it really is just stuff I want to talk about. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I said I would stop for questions. Meredith, I'm doing a terrible job. Is there anything I should talk about task management before I go on to habits and hacks?
No, you're doing a great job. We do not have any questions as of
Okay.
right now. You're doing great.
Awesome. Fantastic. Good. Because I was about to blow past them if we did. Okay. So, habits and hacks. Just 5 tips of things that I have found useful that I couldn't fit into any of the other categories. I'm really glad we're touching on this one now because I think it's relevant to task management, which is the weekly review. I think one of the most useful things that I do in terms of being productive with my time is a practice called the weekly review, in which I go through everything that I've collected over the past week and trying to make sure it's in order. Um, it's not hard to get your life in order. It's not hard to get down to inbox zero or get your calendar looking the way you want it to. But just like cleaning your house, if you don't keep up with it, it falls apart again very quickly. And so the weekly review is the way, once you get something cleaned up and looking the way you want it to look, you keep it that way. So, one productivity habit that I think is really important is just weekly going through all your inboxes, making sure that there's nothing missing. Weekly going through your calendar and making sure that you're not forgetting something important that's coming up. Weekly going through your task lists and taking a look at those things that don't have due dates on them, so maybe they haven't popped up again. Um, and trying to make sure you have everything in the order you want to be in them. I've already sort of talked about this one, so just real quick, I'll remind you that multitasking doesn't exist. It's not really a thing. It's just giving a poor amount of attention to different things at different times. So this is probably one of the hardest habits for people to break. But if you were going to change only one thing to become a more productive person, I'd recommend that would be the big change you would make. Start unitasking and stop multitasking. Another thing you can do, and I'm going to have to point you to my resources in order to get you to this one, is to know your chronotype. A chronotype, you're probably familiar with the concept of circadian rhythms. And that's a real thing, except for that I think the confusion that we have in society is that everybody sort of follows one particular circadian rhythm. Yours is probably very different from the circadian rhythm of the person in the little square next to you right now. And so knowing where you fall into that can help you know what time of day you are most productive. So in my resources, there's a little quiz you can take that will tell you what your chronotype is and tell you what your best time of day is for, like, when you should go to bed and when you should wake up and when you should do your creative thinking and when you should do mundane tasks. And there's a lot of research on that, which I think is super interesting. 2 tools. I told you this isn't very Googly, but I'm going to try to get as Googly as I can with these. If you're not using a password manager, I definitely would suggest that. To me, productivity is all about shaving little bits of time off of your day and not going through the problem of clicking I forgot my password and having that emailed to you and then having to go to like your email quarantine because your county blocked that email password reset and then trying to set it and then, oh no, that was already your password before. Anyway, ever since I started using a password manager, I don't do that anymore. And I've saved minutes off of my life that way. I recommend LastPass, but even if you're just using Chrome as a password manager, I would suggest that that is still better than nothing. I like paying for one though, because I want my passwords to be as secure as possible. So I feel when I'm paying for a password manager such as LastPass, I'm purchasing security with that. And purchasing my privacy. So that's another tool you can use to tie that back to Google. LastPass is a great Chrome extension, and that is how I log into everything. And the last one, the last Google tool that I'm going to bring is another Chrome extension, and that is it's a Chrome extension called Toby for Tabs, and it is sort of like bookmarking pages, but 100% better. It allows you to, if you are a person who, like me, likes to have about 38 tabs open at any given time, this allows you to quickly save them. And as you save them, they automatically close, but you can save them into different groups. So for example, I have a group called Good Morning. And when I click on it, I have about 5 tabs that open. So I can really quickly say, all right, what do I need to take care of? Just some routine business for the day. And then I can close them up again. And tomorrow morning, click those Good Morning tabs and they reopen. Similarly, I have a group of tabs in Toby called Currently Working On. So I can just go and say, oh, what are my projects that I need to focus on right now? And so that's been really helpful. It's also collaborative, so I can share groups of tabs with people. So it's a great way to like also curate resources. So those are just some general habits and hacks. I warned you it wouldn't be googly, but I think we have time for me to kind of slam through one more topic. And I will remind you that, and whatever option we don't get to today, you can still find the general ideas on the resources. So thumbs up for email management, heart for calendar management, and I will pause to ask for questions to Meredith.
They're just asking where the resources are. Katie shared them. Thank you, Katie. And we don't have any questions at this time.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Katie. Yep, and I'll share that slide at the end. Looks like we're gonna wrap up with email management. I'm gonna try to knock that out in 5 minutes. So here we go. Okay. I believe in my heart of hearts in the concept of inbox zero. I know that's kind of overwhelming if you're somebody who has 10,000 emails in your inbox. And I would say a good way to, if you are that person, if you want to be an inbox zero person, would be at some break, maybe at winter break, take all of those emails in your inbox and put them in a folder and just try to forget about it and sort of start from scratch, because there's no way for you to go through those 10,000 emails and feel like you're doing a good thing with your time. But if you have a low number of emails or you're at inbox zero and you want to maintain it, there's a general system that I recommend for this. And that is every time you look at an email, you make a decision about that email. Do you want to do it, delegate it, defer it, or not written on this screen, just completely delete it? If you choose to make it something you do, here's another piece of advice that I think might be one of the most useful things I can tell you about. It's called the 2-minute rule. And if you're looking at an email and it takes you 2 minutes to complete the task that is assigned in that email, do it, delete it, and never think about it again. Don't finish going through your email and then go back to the 2-minute tasks. You want to touch your email as few times as possible. Another thing you definitely want to do when you're looking at email and you want to get it out of your inbox, but you want to do it, but you can't do it this second because it takes 30 minutes and you don't have 30 minutes. Move it to someplace productive. So rather than letting it sit in your email, in your main inbox and being worried about it, move it to a folder. And you can quickly do that, and I say folder, but you call it a label, whatever you want to call it. You can quickly do that by clicking this little label icon and moving it to a folder. I like to have as few as possible, so I usually keep just 3. Next steps for something that's going to take me more than 2 minutes, but I know I need to get to right away. Reference for something that I don't actually need to act on at all, but I don't want to delete it. So I just want it to sit in my reference. Or waiting for, which is what I would suggest for if you are going to delegate this task to someone. If you need somebody else, I know that's hard. If you're a teacher, that's really tough to do. There's not somebody else who's just going to do your job for you. But if you are in some kind of leadership position, or there's just something you're not qualified to do and you have to delegate it, I recommend forwarding that email away, but then filing it in a waiting for category so you can go back to it later and say, all right, I need to follow up with this person in case it doesn't get acted upon. If you want to defer your emails, there are 2 quick ways to do that. You can put them directly into your task management system. So if you do use Google Tasks, you have this option right here of putting it right into your task list. Or one feature I really like in Google is the ability to put it into your calendar directly. So I'm going to Ditch Summit next week, which I highly recommend. It's not as good as VSTE, but you can take that email and have it automatically added to your calendar. One fun fact about that is you want to be careful, because if you do add an email as a calendar event, it doesn't just appear for you, it appears for the sender of the email unless you delete them. So if I put this on my calendar, I would also be inviting Matt Miller. I'm sure he'd be honored, but it's probably already on his calendar. So I had to remove him. It is a really nice feature, though, to have that information popped onto your calendar where you can access it when you need it. But I don't need to know about Ditch Summit right now. My brain is full of other things. So I love that add to calendar feature. And then another great way to defer within Gmail, it's not a Google product, but it works really nicely with Gmail, is you're probably already familiar with the snooze button, which is fantastic. I love snoozing an email and saying, come talk to me on Monday, I'm not interested. But I have also over snoozed and gotten like 10 emails on Monday morning and felt overwhelmed by that. So there's a tool called followupthen.com, which you can access at followupthen.com. It's free for 50 uses a month. And if you send an email there so this little GIF is showing you some examples, but I could send an email to tomorrow at followupthen.com and then delete it. And tomorrow followupthen would send that email back to me. I like this more than the snooze button because, one, it's really specific. I can do 5 minutes at followupthen.com. I can do March 31st and have it come back then. Or I can, I really like the fact that I can BCC it. So if I work with someone unreliable, I totally don't. But if I did, and I didn't trust them to respond to my email, rather than putting something in a waiting for folder, I could email that person and then BCC 5 days at followupthen.com. And when that email came back to me, it would remind me, hey, it's time to follow up with that person. To be clear, it would not email the person who received it. It would only go back to me. So as long as I BCC it, it's a nice little tool for reminding yourself of what might be on your list.
Excuse me, Biz. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're down to the last couple of minutes. So I just wanted to give
Absolutely.
you a little bit of a warning here. You can,
That's
like I
my
said,
last thing.
You can go a little bit over because we're not backed up to anybody. So,
Oh, Tim, I can't go over on a time management session. I just can't.
I don't know.
I would feel like a little bit of a hypocrite. So I am going to wrap it up here. And if you want to see any of my ideas on calendar management or revisit any of those, then they're all there at productivity.itcsforall.com. If you don't catch that link right now, I also shared the link in the sketch, so you should be able to find it. I can hang out for a second since Tim says I can if there's any questions, but otherwise just reach out to me at BusyITC on Twitter, or like I said at the beginning of the session, if you're a latecomer, I'd love for you to follow ITCs for All or Unison EDU on Twitter, 2 great organizations putting out tons of fun content.
And thank you very much. There was a lot of stuff in there. I
know.
things
This is
too.
awesome, Biz.
So thank
Yeah.
you. And let me stop the recording.
30 minutes is tough, man.